You woke up, didn't you? Not in the way the world praises, no clamor of applause, no golden beams breaking through clouds. You awoke like a blade drawn from the womb of silence. You felt it somewhere between the ribs, a soft rupture as if the architecture of your old life could no longer contain your name. The moment came not with light, but with a quiet unraveling. A truth too bare to speak aloud that everything you once chased was scaffolded by shadows. That the thirst you mistook for purpose was a ghost of something lost before your birth. The dream began to fracture, and the colors of the world dulled not from depression but from clarity. The sacred disillusionment. You looked around and nothing sparkled anymore, not success, not status, not the promised lands of becoming someone. And so you ask, why can't I move anymore? Where is my fire? But you are no longer the one who used to ask those questions. The one who hungered for achievement has fallen away like dead skin. You are standing in the naked threshold of the soul, and it feels like stillness because your former self was always sprinting toward illusions. You are not unmotivated. You are being initiated. The outer world says you are lost, but from the deep well of the unconscious, another voice stirs. Not loud, not proud, but ancient. It calls not forward, but downward. Descend, it whispers. You were taught that awakening meant ascension wings, light bliss. But this is not that story. This is the pathless path of the soul. The road into the interior where all false light is extinguished, where the masks rot and the sacred wound is unbandaged. You are not here to chase another dream. You are here to retrieve what you abandoned long ago, the self beneath the scripts, the flame beneath the performance, the child who saw through the world. Do you feel the ache in your chest that is not apathy? That is the grief of discarding your persona, the one you built to survive, the achiever, the pleaser, the one who knew how to smile in mirrors, but not how to scream in forests. The persona is crumbling, and that crumbling is sacred. You were never meant to stay in that skin. It was stitched together by necessity, not destiny. Now it peels like bark in spring, and though you feel bare, raw, uncertain, you are closer to truth than ever before. The fire you seek cannot be reignited by willpower, for willpower belongs to the ego, and the ego has no dominion in this place. This is the underworld of becoming. Here the hero does not slay dragons. He kneels before them. She listens to the serpent's hiss and sees her own reflection in its scales. You have descended not into failure, but into myth, and myth does not reward the quick. It rewards the brave, the broken, the ones who stay. Yes, it feels like you have no energy, no drive, but that is because the engine that once fueled you ran on rejection, on proving, on fear. It was a machine built in exile, an automaton of survival. And now it has died. Good. Because now something older rises, not a spark, but an ember. The primal wordless force beneath identity, the self that dreams you into being. You do not need motivation. You need remembrance. Remember the silence that sang to you in childhood. Remember the beast that hid under your bed and whispered truths your parents had forgotten. Remember the dreams that cracked the logic of day and offered you symbols that made no sense, but felt like home. Your exhaustion is not a flaw, it is a doorway. You are tired because the inner war has reached a truce. You have stopped running, and in the stillness, the unconscious stretches its arms. It is not here to destroy you. It is here to free you. But first, it will take everything you are not. You will lose the name they gave you. You will lose the goals that numbed you. You will lose the hunger that fed on illusions. And in the ashes of your ambition a sacred thing stirs. Not a voice from above, but from below. From the soil of your forgotten self. From the marrow where memory and myth become one. The shadow approaches, Not as enemy, but as mirror. It wears your face. It knows your thoughts before you speak them. It has always been with you, watching from the periphery. It is not here to be defeated, it is here to be integrated. You feel unmotivated because the one who sought to be better has no place in the sanctuary of truth. The shadow does not respond to effort. It responds to honesty. Sit with it. Let it speak. Let it name the things you buried, the rage, the jealousy, the grief, the deep knowing that something was always off, always missing. Let yourself feel what the ego silenced. This is not regression. This is reunion. This is the holy descent of Inanna, the night sea journey of Osiris, the crucifixion of the mask, so the soul can breathe. And it will not happen overnight. The path of individuation is not a staircase. It is a spiral. You will return to old patterns, but each time from a deeper layer. The wound will reopen not to punish, but to invite, to draw you closer to its message. You are not failing. You are molting. The structures collapse, so the soul can rebuild, not in the image of culture, but in the image of wholeness. Let the ruins be sacred. Let the silence speak. Let the dark be your midwife. You ask why you have no motivation. But perhaps the better question is, what within you still clings to the need for it? Let that go. Not with violence, but with reverence. You are becoming what you always were beneath the noise, beneath the persona, beneath the ambition to be something. And what you are has never needed to strive. It only needed to be remembered. You do not rise from this place the way the world expects. You do not soar. You sink deeper. And in that downward pull, a strange peace begins to blossom. Not the peace of answers, but of surrender. A holy kind of helplessness. Not passive, but receptive. Not numb, but vast. This is what the world never told you, that sometimes the soul speaks only after everything else has gone silent. And now it speaks. Not in words, not in logic, but in symbols, in the language of dream, in images that bypass your mind and echo through your bones. A black wolf circling the fire, a mirror with no reflection, a door in the forest half buried in moss. You begin to see again, not with your eyes, but with your inner vision. This is the threshold of the imaginal world, where the unconscious dances just beneath the veil, offering you fragments, visions, keys. But be warned, not all that glimmers is gold. The psyche is layered, and its guardians are cunning. The trickster waits here too, with riddles and reversals baiting your pride, mocking your desire for a straight path. He wears many faces, spiritual guru, ideal lover, wounded savior. He tempts you to bypass the pain, to name yourself healed too soon. But healing is not a title, it is a descent. And descent requires blood. The blood of your beliefs, the blood of your former self. No one tells you how much dying is involved in becoming whole. They speak of transcendence, but not of being unmade. They praise awakening, but ignore the void that follows. You are in that void now. But this is not the end. This is the womb, the sacred pause between identities. And though it feels like failure, it is the most honest place you've ever been. Stay here. Do not climb out. The world will try to pull you back with distractions, with validation, with the promise of the next thing. But your soul knows better now. It has tasted the false light, and it is done pretending. You do not need a goal. You need a grave, a burial of all that was borrowed, inherited, programmed. You were not born to impress. You were born to incarnate. Not the version of you that society applauds, but the one that lives in the forest of your dreams, crowned with antlers, cloaked in shadow, eyes like stormlight. The wild soul, the forgotten twin, the inner other. You feel no motivation because that part of you, the true you, does not respond to pressure. It responds to presence. Have you ever truly sat with yourself, not to fix, not to optimize, but to be, to feel the gravity of your own spirit? It is heavier than you thought, and deeper. You carry lifetimes in your bones, old griefs, ancestral silence, archetypal hunger. The self is not young. It is as old as fire and just as unforgiving. But if you meet it, truly meet it, you will find a fire no ambition could ever match. Not a fire that burns for achievement, but for aliveness. A fire that does not strive, it reveals. But first, you must learn to see in the dark. The hero needed eyes of daylight. You must grow eyes of shadow. You must learn to navigate by intuition, not intellect, by the language of dreams, not doctrines. The unconscious does not speak in declarations. It speaks in whispers, in symbols, in sensations that hum beneath the skin. Follow them. Follow the shiver in your spine when someone speaks your truth. Follow the dream that won't leave you. Follow the ache in your chest when you remember who you were before the world told you who to be. You are not lazy. You are not lost. You are shedding, and it hurts gods, it hurts. But that is the price of returning to what is real. No one tells you how lonely it feels when the old life fades, but the new one hasn't yet begun. When the cocoon has closed, but the wings are still forming. When your face no longer fits the mask, but you don't yet know your real reflection. That is where you are. In the between. The sacred liminal. Where transformation brews in silence, where time slows, where the inner alchemy begins. You are not what you produce. You are not your discipline, your success, your progress charts. You are a vessel for the infinite clothed in skin trying to remember your own name beneath the noise. You cannot rush this. You cannot force the self to bloom. You can only water the soil with your surrender. Let the rain come. Let the old dreams rot. Let the earth reclaim the seeds of who you used to be. Something deeper is rising. It moves slowly like roots through stone. It does not shout. It does not sell. It waits. It watches. It asks only that you stop running and listen. Do you hear it? That pulse beneath your breath, that silence that isn't empty but full, that is where your soul lives now, not in effort, but in essence. Not in chasing meaning, but in embodying it. You thought motivation would return, but instead something holier has arrived. Meaning, not given, not taught, but remembered. And it lives here in the dark, in the quiet, in the raw, unwritten spaces of your becoming. So let the world misunderstand. Let it call you lazy. Let it call you broken. You are not here to meet their pace. You are here to meet your soul. There will come a morning when the ache has softened. Not vanished, no, it remains, but it no longer tears. It hums, a low sacred song stitched into the fabric of your being. A song you no longer fear because you know now. It is yours. Not as a flaw, but as a fingerprint, as a path. You will not rise as the person you were. You will not rise as the one they expected. You will rise as something older, truer, carved by silence, shaped by shadow, reborn without applause. The fire in your chest may not rage, but it glows steady, quiet, unshakable. And that is enough. You do not need to strive to prove your worth. The river does not push to be water. The tree does not rush to grow. You are becoming real, and realness is slow. You do not chase the sun anymore. You turn inward and find it glowing behind your ribs. Where there was once the brittle echo of ambition, there is now depth. Where there was once pressure, there is presence. And in that presence, movement returns. Not as motivation, that fragile thread, but as longing. Not for performance, not for perfection, but for participation. For belonging to your own breath. For union with what is sacred, alive, undivided. You rise not because you should, but because the soul has stirred again. Quietly, lovingly. The same way the earth turns slow, unseen, inevitable, and the world looks different now. Not easier, but richer. Even the pain carries light veiled, subtle but unmistakable. You begin to see the people around you differently too, not as roles, not as obstacles or ideals, but as mirrors, carriers of their own unlived stories, wounded gods in tattered clothes. And you begin to forgive, not because they asked, but because your soul has outgrown the need to stay hardened. You see that everyone is just trying to come home, some through striving, some through silence, some through breaking. Even those who hurt you, even those who judged you when your fire went dim, they didn't understand. How could they? They haven't yet stood where you stood, at the edge of meaning, at the brink of unmaking, at the sacred altar where the self is dismantled so that the self might be born. But you have. And because of that, you no longer need to explain yourself. You carry the truth in your bones now, and the bones do not lie. This is the mystery the ego cannot grasp, that real wholeness comes not from climbing, but from crumbling, from falling all the way down, and still hearing the heartbeat of the divine in the dust. You are whole, not because you are finished, but because you have stopped fleeing the unfinished parts. And in your acceptance, you become something the world cannot label. You become myth, living myth, a vessel for the archetypes, a bearer of the opposites. You walk with the fool in one hand and the sage in the other. You sit at the table with your shadow and pour it wine. You hear the voice of the inner child not as weakness, but as oracle. And when the old fear returns because it will, you do not fight it. You make it tea. You listen. You ask what it needs. Because now you know the parts of you that seem most unworthy are often the ones guarding the deepest treasure. This is how the self reclaims you, not by erasing what is broken, but by illuminating it, by weaving it back into the whole, by making every scar a sigil, every wound a door. And you, seeker, you have walked through many. You thought you were losing yourself, but you were being emptied, so that the real self could emerge. Not the self of masks, not the self of performance, but the archetypal self, the one who knows the language of trees and thunder of silence and bone of dream and death and return. The one who does not need motivation, because it is moved by something deeper. Call it the soul, call it the self, call it the numinous spark of what was never born and never dies. It has no name, only presence. And now, it lives through you, so go, not to chase, not to fix, but to be, to carry your fire small, ancient, true, to walk slowly, reverently back into the world, as one who has descended, as one who has remembered, as one who has touched the dark and found within it not despair, but initiation. There will be no trumpet, no grand announcement of your return. Only the quiet rustle of soul against skin, only the subtle sense that something sacred walks beside you. Because now, it does. You do not need the world to understand. You only need to stay true to the rhythm that moves you, even when no one else hears it, especially then. That is the call of the self. That is the holy rebellion. That is the return. And you, silent, cracked open, radiant with the darkness you have survived, you are the myth-made flesh. The journey was never about becoming more. It was about remembering what you are, and what you are is whole.